Well, welcome to a glorious day on the farm. The sun's come out at last. We've had quite a few overcast days, so it's quite nice to actually see the sun. So Dad's just loaded up with a bucket full of fodder beet in the feeding bucket, which I've showed you in some previous videos, and it's what we use to feed out the fodder beet every year. We've only had it for about 3 years, but it's been really good so far. It was quite hard to see last night, but basically the fodder beet crops come all the way up to the front of the 6.9. As you can see, this is the fodder beet in its harvested form. As you can see, that one's had quite a bit of damage from something. That's a better one to look at perhaps. So basically it goes through the bucket and it's just chopped up. So last year we had quite a bad year when we were growing the Blaze variety, and when we were drilling it this year we thought we'd grow Mangor in an attempt to gain a higher yield off it, and so far that's proved to be the case. It's done really well. As I said, the fodder beet has come right up to the front of the 6.930 here, as you can see. So the yield could have been a lot worse. So we're really happy on the whole with this crop, and let's get feeding it now to the Belgian Blues. But they haven't been fed too much because you have to be quite careful as to how you feed it out, especially when you're starting feeding it to animals. They absolutely love it. It's been, as you can see, crushed up by the machine. You can adjust how big you want the pieces to be just up on the springs on the machine. And they've literally, every animal in here now has pretty much cleared up the majority of the fodder beet. And it's not because we're not giving them enough, it's because they just can't have that much at this particular moment. We're just trying to get them onto it, really. It's a bit like if you were to have too much sugar on your cornflakes in the morning. You would probably have a lot of energy and you'd be feeling quite shaky all day. So you've just got to be very careful, basically, as to how it's actually fed out. So I've just returned to the fodder beet field, come up here on the quad bike as you can see, and I'm basically here just to shut the gates. As you can see, Paul, who was driving the sugar beet harvester yesterday, he had slowed down the topper on the front of the harvester so that basically it doesn't mulch up the leaves. Instead, it will actually leave them in a whole state like that. And basically what they're doing now, the leaves, is they're withering so that when the sheep come on here, probably next week now, they will be able to eat these, because you can't just feed these to animals like they are now. They have to wither for a few days because in this state they're a little toxic. So as you can see, where the harvester's been, it basically spreads its weight. I don't know if you saw in the video yesterday, but the machine's wheels are basically spread all along the width of the machine, and that's to reduce compaction, because I should imagine it weighs quite a lot. The machine yesterday was a 9-row machine, but it was running a 6-row header. Paul had told me in the cab yesterday, you can actually get a 9-row header. I think there's some machines in the UK which run them. It's a 9-row, obviously a piece of equipment which goes on the front of the machine, and then Paul would be able to harvest more sugar beet and fodder beet. But basically Paul runs a 6-row because it's easier to get down the lanes, and I think you can go a bit quicker with the 6 row, so you'd have to go a bit slower with the 9 row. It's basically swings and roundabouts by the sounds of things, but I'm sure the 9 row header would be some piece of equipment, but even so, 6 rows is just ridiculous. Paul actually told me that machine yesterday costs over £500,000 to buy new, and I wouldn't like to be picking up the bill for that one. So Paul's very, very busy at the moment. This is his busiest time of the year. He's harvesting all of the sugar beet and fodder beet around this region, Norfolk and Suffolk, and he'll be absolutely flat out now, I think, until the end of the sugar beet season, which is probably going to be like January, February time, end of February. And Paul actually runs 2 sugar beet harvesters. They're called Vivet, or Vivet. Don't know if you could correct me on that. It's a Dutch company who make sugar beet harvesters, and Paul was telling me he'd just bought a new Q series, which is I think slightly smaller than the one we saw yesterday, but it can more or less spin on the spot. Like, it can do pretty much 360 at the end of the rows, which would be pretty cool to see. And sometimes he runs both harvesters together with 2 tractors and trailers. The tractor yesterday was a Fendt 930, which, let me tell you, was some piece of kit. 300 horsepower, had a 20-ton trailer on the back, and you would not know it was there. Unbelievable. And Paul had just bought that this season, the Fendt 930. He used to have an 828, but he was apparently offered such a good deal that he had to buy the 930 this year. So there we go, that's the fodder beet harvest finished for this year, and yeah, went really well. We're quite happy with the yield, and like you've seen in the video, we fed it out today to the animals to begin with, and the calves, by the way, are doing really well, my 8 calves. Also the other 30 calves are doing really well. They're on hard food, mine are still on milk. I've had a bit of a problem though with mixing up the milk. Basically it's been a bit lumpy, so I've been just using a whisk. And the other day I made an electric whisk with the cordless Milwaukee drill, and I cut a whisk in half, placed it on the drill and made an electric whisk. It is working, but I've just been online and I've just ordered a new industrial mixer, which is for the construction industry, I guess, for when you're mixing up plaster and things, but it should be fine for the milk, and I'm hoping it's going to do a really good job. So that's the only trouble I've had with the calves so far, is trying to correctly mix up their milk. You can see that Paul's done a really good job. The majority of the crop is being picked up in the harvester, and he always does a good job, Paul. It's an excellent piece of kit that he uses. Absolutely fantastic. So just going to shut the gates. Fodder beet harvest 2018 has been completed. So here are the calves. They're 4 weeks old, as you can see. They're just lying down now. They've had their milk this morning, and they've also got some nuts in here, which they're just starting to nibble at. Certainly some of the larger ones are having a go at the nuts, but I'm really happy with their progression. They're skipping around like happy as Larry, and yeah, so far they're doing really well. So back into the workshop here to conclude today's video. I've actually got a bit of post here. I've got an Amtech Petri dish which I bought, and basically it's a magnetic dish which you can use to put nuts and bolts and things in, and you basically stick it on the side of your toolbox and it holds nuts and bolts on. It looks quite well built. So that's basically all it is, just a little dish with basically a massive magnet on the bottom. So this is my toolbox here, as you can see. This is the new Amtech Petri dish. Don't know if it'll focus, there we go. And just stick it on the side there, and if you've got a few nuts and bolts, a few nuts for example, you can just, like so, just sticks on the side, a few nuts and bolts, and just grab them. Excellent, that is really, really good, really, really handy for when I'm in the workshop. And I've also been sent by Ben Burgess a brand new 2019 calendar from Ben Burgess, and it's obviously John Deere. There's a massive 8 series on the front there, and what have we got for December? We've got a John Deere Gator, and so on, an 8400R, 9RX. Oh, smart bit of kit, smart, I do like that, 7 series. So if you're a bit confused with what's going on in the farm, and I've been going a bit too fast, I'm basically going to put it down on this whiteboard so that we can kind of go over everything which is going on. So basically, here we go. I'll just pop it on the screen there for you guys. I don't know if you can see it all. But basically, number 1, my 8 Belgian blue calves. They're 4 weeks old and they're doing well. They are the 8 calves you'll have seen on off the lorry the other day. The fodder bit has been harvested. The sheep are grazing the turnips, which I think I showed in a previous video. For the Massey Ferguson demo is coming next week. I did a little video on Massey Ferguson's the other day. And yeah, we're getting a demo next week, 7718 Massey Ferguson. Replacement drone for the shots. You might have noticed in my videos that recently there's been quite a few drone shots. That is because I bought a replacement drone. My first one actually flew away and I lost it in a wood next door to this farm. The red poll cattle are in calf. They're due to calve in February. They're in calf. I've showed you the red poll cattle previously, I think, in a video, but you might not have known what they are. There are 50 red polls and they're a suckler herd which graze the Broads National Park. So they're due to calve in February. Also, we've had to buy an extra 50 bales of round bales of barley straw. I don't know if you can see it there. And I've got to go and collect that at some point as well. These are just some things which are going on the farm. There's literally not a lot I can actually fit on this board, but just to try and keep you up to date with what is going on. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, you can go and follow the Olly's Farm Instagram page, which is ollys.farm in the Instagram search bar. And do comment, rate and subscribe. Do comment because I would really like to hear from you, and I love reading the comments actually, to see what you guys are up to and to see as well what you would also like to see in the future for future videos. For example, I know some people wanted me to do the machinery tour, and I know some people as well wanted me to do a workshop tour, which I will basically come up with for a future video. Everything you suggest, I will try and put it into the mix and make a video on what you suggest. So if you comment, I do read all the comments, and I really like it when everyone does become involved and comment. And also, well done on guessing the buzzard the other day, if you guessed it right. We've got a couple of buzzards here which live on the farm, and they actually live just in the wood at the top of the farm there. There's a pair who live there, and there's also another one which lives on the another side of the farm. So they're quite common around here, and it's really nice to see them. I was quite lucky to actually pick them up in that video, that buzzard in the tree, because it was from quite a distance, and luckily this camera's got really good zoom. It's a Canon PowerShot SX50 HS, and it's basically a zoom camera, so you can zoom in from like 500 meters and it does a really good job of picking up the image, even though it was a bit wobbly. I was trying really hard to keep it straight. So there we go. Do comment, rate and subscribe for plenty more videos to come.